Welcome. Well, hello there. Okay, well, let's get started. Okay, so today I just wanted to talk about a few different things. Ended up having a really good conversation with Trung in the chat in Discord, and hopefully some of you saw that, but I've got the different materials that were talked about in the new land update article scrolling through the screen here, and I'll probably pause it and talk about it a little bit, and I'd love to hear people's ideas about what might be coming in this regard too. So hopefully people are enjoying this kind of once a week experience, and I'm having a good time doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it so long as I'm having a good time. And as we see these materials scrolling by, I think that we can learn a little bit about them, at least what this concept art tells us. So I'm going to pause here for a minute. When we look at these gemstones, this may be the one that has kind of the least useful amount of information because it's kind of hard to tell for sure how these are structured. There may be more information here than I'm realizing, but as most of you know that are involved with land and land gameplay, there are 5, I'd say, basic types of land, not including Luna's Landing, right? So we have savanna, forest, Arctic, Genesis, and I guess actually the 5th is Luna, right? Let me go through that again. We have savanna, forest, Arctic, Mystic, and Genesis. No, it's the 5. Yeah, I had it right the first time. So, and that was kind of the main point of why I wanted to go through these materials, because I think that we're getting maybe some information that these are showing us. This top row up here are maybe the common types, rare types, and more epic types. And then like a, super unique, ultra material type here at the bottom. So with those 5 land types, I think it kind of gives us some ideas as we look at this. So if these top shells are kind of the more common ones, the middle row is the more rare, and then we have kind of epic, and then like super rare, unique, the highest level of this type of material. And we kind of see, at least I think we kind of see some differences in, to me, this kind of middle row, and I don't know if these are by row of how the different lands are going to play out, or if they've got them kind of mixed up. To me, it kind of looks like maybe they're mixed up, but I'm not sure about that either. I'm not really sure about any of it. I'm just trying to figure out some kind of plausible correlation here. I mean, it kind of looks like these shells match. It kind of looks like maybe I don't even know for sure. I hardly even dare guess. But it kind of seems to me like we're seeing maybe commons from different land types, rares from different land types, epics from different land types. And I just kind of noticed that, and it also seemed like in a couple of these, as it scrolls through, I think I can point that out too. You see things that look pretty much like Arctic. You see things that look mystical. Maybe that's black, like Genesis style. Again, not completely sure how you end up getting these, whether it's just kind of like you go out and collect the resource and you just kind of have a random chance of getting the different types, or if these different types come from harder to mine resources. The wood ones looked really interesting to me too when we get there. So, I mean, you got these swirls. To me, I see kind of maybe a moon here. That looks Arctic to me. And these ones I can't tell for sure, forest or savanna. But some of them kind of give us a hint that they're coming from different types of land sources. So, I don't know. I find it interesting. Just kind of wanted to point that out, and we'll talk a little bit more in just a minute. And again, the gemstones. So let's get into the main part of the presentation. And again, as always, I like to start this out by just reminding people nothing that I'm talking about here has anything to do with investing. This is a game, and we're just talking about game, specifically about land play. And don't be stupid. Make sure you're being smart with your money and time and everything. Right, Enforcer. Yeah, that's kind of the sense I'm getting. It comes from different land sources. And again, whether those are coming off of, individual land plots, or if they're coming out of the resource nodes, not sure about that at all. Obviously, everything is super prototype right now and just concept. But let's see what we can figure out. So, wanted to talk about structures mostly today, but it kind of changed because as I was preparing what I wanted to shoot off today, I kind of got off track a little bit. So again, this is the initial concept, kind of like the prototype concept, and we have structures here, residences. We have like I think this is a food establishment, maybe an inn, potion shop, military tent, igloos. We have some fishing areas. And so we have kind of, these windmills, different things like that, statue. But in the most recent update, we didn't really get anything that seemed to follow that concept exactly or precisely. Again, this was the concept art too. And we see items placed, but the main structure I think we see is this like farm plot. This is again original information, this harvest mine build concept. The backpacks are talked about in the update too. But we kind of see here that the things that we got as far as the material list in the update do tend to have like the stone. We saw stone, wood we saw, crystal we saw. The shells weren't really part of the original discussion or concept. I just wanted to pull this up again. The initial ideas about resource gathering specifically said resource gathering and crafting. And I need to look again, but I didn't really see a whole lot of information about crafting, and that's kind of what took me down this little rabbit hole of information. So I've been pushing pretty heavily, and people have heard me talking about items and how they can be smelted according to one of the earlier Axie Infinity, I guess, white papers, or at least concept article. It sounds like Jiho put that together, is what Trunk said, I think, in the Discord chat. So the idea here is that we still have this common, rare, epic, and then mystic structure, which seems to follow the general categories of the materials. And so this was kind of my question, or kind of my statement in Discord chat. So this is kind of where I'm going to start going into speculation, and maybe over the top speculation, but we're going to give it a shot here. So I was thinking that land items could only be placed on land categories. Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think what Trung talked about is even cooler. That's why I wanted to talk about it in the stream today. So I kind of put out there a few times, because I'm always trying to see if we can get more information, or if we can get kind of a sense of where things are headed. And so here I said, my theory was that basically mystic items can go on anything, but then you can only put like lesser land items on higher land plots. And AK said, I think an item can be placed anywhere, but that certain items have land-specific bonuses and values that make it so that, you know, they can be placed, but they're not going to have the bonus if they're not on the right type of land, which, you know, I thought, wow, I kind of like that. And they showed us only Arctic, so I couldn't tell for sure what we're going to get on the forest and savanna. And Trung actually seemed to verify that the system that AK talked about was probably the approach that they're looking at. That's the approach they're pursuing right now. So if you think about that, so what does that mean? Well, that means that in a way, at least in my mind, it tends to mean that any land item is potentially useful. It also might mean, but I'm not completely convinced about this. So if anybody's been paying attention to my land item acquisitions, I mean, you have to be paying pretty close attention. But I was tending to favor more forest and Arctic rares when I was picking them up. And I'm continuing to pick them up. But it kind of sounds like, just one second. It kind of sounds like that maybe those land items, that if it's an Arctic or if it's a forest, it might not be intrinsically having any greater value than just the fact that it's either common, rare, or epic. I can't verify that for sure, obviously, but I'll keep going through the conversation, and it kind of made me feel like maybe there's a little less distinction between the land type and more distinction in whether or not it's rare, common, or epic. So this again was the first thing I was talking about, and I've been talking about for a while, is that there was clearly an idea that land items you could smelt, and those would be used toward construction of structures. So I asked in Discord, and Trung talked about this. He said that particular clip, because that's what I showed and he was referring to, that he thinks of it more as like recycling. Smelting is more, I would think of like forging or something like that in Warcraft, or he specifically gave us Stardew Valley. So that would be more taking a particular type of material, and, you know, if it's a metal type, it would be smelting to turn it from being like a chunk or a piece into a bar. And I mean, I really like that idea, that concept a lot. So I'm not quite sure about the difference now between what recycling might be and what smelting might be, and what the difference between gathered materials and recycled materials might be. So the conversation continued, and I just wanted to keep pointing out some of the information. So I asked a few questions, and I kind of asked, like, so when we recycle, I called it smelting still, but he had talked about recycling at that point. I said, you know, so is it going to be varied basically from commons to rares to epics? And he said, well, we don't know for sure yet, but I mean, logically, you would get more quantity based on the higher level of the particular land item. And so from that, I take that maybe the idea is that all land items are going to become one type of material or resource or whatever it is that they're going to recycle into. That there's some maybe base part, material, resource, I don't even know for sure what to call it, but that when you recycle it, it becomes some particular type of item that maybe can be used for various purposes. And so one of the things Trunk said that I thought was way interesting, and again, this is all speculation. This is just all way early pre-prototype, but I'm just trying to get ahead of the game and think, what does this mean for people who want to build structures and fill their lands with bonuses and land items and stuff like that. And so he said, just as an example, in other games, you might have a level 2 item by converting or recycling. I'm, again, thinking, I'm not trying to put words in Trunk's mouth at all, but just this idea might be that, say, 3 common items would then potentially evolve into 1 rare item. But if you took that same rare item and recycled that, you wouldn't get the same amount back that you would going from lower rarity to higher rarity. And there can be lots of reasons for that. I mean, in game, we have lots of examples from different fantasy games, different types of games, that's all part of the total marketplace system as to how recycling of different materials and gathering of different materials and collecting of different materials works to go into things like, say armor or weapon, and in our case here, structures and land items. So again, looking at this was the statement down here at the bottom that was included, and I just didn't want to steal from Enjoy, so I pulled this off of his Axie Edge article. The statement, though, is that these are the building blocks necessary to unleash an amazing crafting system within Lunacia as well. We've been working hard on Luna and have done some initial math and design on how to integrate it into land. And those findings we'll save for another day. So basically they're saying, as I understand it, hey, Luna's going to be a huge part of all this, but we don't necessarily have Luna all sorted out. Probably be a good idea to get your hands on some Luna. So this picture from the update is one I wanted to point out too, because I think we see some items that maybe can be generated from crafting, because we see like this totem in the background, and we know that totem is actually a land item. We see this lamp, but it's on a post, which is different. So either you can create like a holder to put a land item on top of it, or it's a completely different item as well. And then, is this a potion stand for buying and selling? Don't know. Cart, definitely. We don't have anything like that. A book table with desks and shelves. Maybe that's a storage facility. Nothing like that yet. Table, so forth. Potion cauldron. Yeah, nothing like that yet either. So, and again, this looks like a way to transport things. So is this crafted? Is this a crafted vehicle? So we know that we're going to be able to collect and store resources, and it sounds as though they want to make sure that that's part of the initial gameplay that gets released. So until they get that figured out, we're not going to see gameplay, I believe. So they're designing that. They're talking about how that's going to work, how they're going to transport things. It looks like maybe vehicles or sleds or carts or something are going to be part of that. So again, here are kind of the initial proposed structures from some of the concept and prototype information. But the reason I pointed this out is because in the article, we kind of get some different information. So for now, we're being told there's going to be like a resource storage unit, a town hall, and kind of a teleporting portal so that Axies can get from, I guess, their home base, which I assume would be the town hall, where they could stay, and then they can get to dungeons and resource nodes so that they can collect or battle or whatever, and they can get resources and come back. Which tells me that for sure collection has to happen. Probably some sort of Chimera PvE interaction has to happen. But it's going to be a while before we get like potion shops, blacksmiths, farms, and fishing. Which makes sense. I mean, those are going to be more complicated structures. First, we need a place for the Axies to reside. We need a place for holding on to the resources that the Axies collect, or that through the land play interface, the user collects, the player collects, and then we need to be able to get our Axies around. So, makes sense. So, hey, Odin, what's up? Hey, look at that. Right when you pop up, I'm quoting you from Discord. Thanks for hanging out. So, there's going to be different types of crafting, Odin asked, and that was fascinating to me because my mind was kind of being blown when Trung was talking about some of this stuff. And yeah, it looks like there will be. So, normal crafting, I take that to mean like armor, weapons, items, that type of stuff. Recycling is what I've talked about to this point. Gemming and socketing, I'm not sure the difference between those. I take that as like upgrading or empowering, imbuing your particular items. And then upgrading, I think, has been discussed since the very beginning. And upgrading would be actually upgrading your Axie's parts and upgrading aspects of your land, which sounds super cool. And then I asked, so wait a second, are we saying that land items and structures are kind of like the same thing? And the answer there was just that they're not exactly the same. And I'm not quite sure what that means, because, you know, we only have the particular land items that we have so far. But the reason my mind was kind of spinning on this information is it sounds like there's going to be a lot more land items that are going to be available, and probably going to do some pretty fantastic, pretty fabulous things. Hey, thanks for the follow, man. Good to see you. Like, again, it kind of is just telling me I still think acquiring land items is going to be a really smart move long term. And I think that what Trung said kind of made me feel a lot more confident that acquiring it makes a lot of sense. And I guess for people who are tuned in, I'll drop this one. Like, so if it is anything like what Trunk's talking about, meaning 3 times commons go to rares, and say 3 times rares go to epics. I mean, just think about that. Think about that in terms of the current market price of particular land items. And if they all kind of recycle into the same sort of material, that's an interesting proposition. If they follow the same path, think about that too. If all they can do is follow the same path, then 3 common items, you're going to be able to bring that to a rare, potentially. Again, this is all just speculation. And then 3 rare items you could potentially bring to an epic. I'm kind of hoping that that's not how it goes, especially given the recycle/smelt information that was given initially. I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to just convert those land items into useful resources, materials for building, as opposed to just like upgrading the land item from one stage to the next stage. But if epics can transfer into mystic items, I guess I'd take that all day long. And by the way, another one. So again, if what Trung was talking about tracks, I guess you can see, like, I don't even have any idea what the base value should be for a common land item. But if it follows that kind of multiplier, that we see in what he kind of discussed, and if it follows the multiplier that we see in land values, then I would say of all of the land items right now, there's some pretty dang good deals on rares. So I put this one on here again because, you know, the idea here is that we're going to be able to do this in a cooperative sort of manner. And again, I put this up here because if it doesn't allow us to bring the items into either Luna or some sort of common resource, then these sorts of statements don't really make sense. Because if we can't pool rare resources to turn them into artifacts, then this type of statement really doesn't make any sense. It seems like it would only make sense if the different land items and different resources are all kind of useful for generating new land items and or structures, or however that's going to look. I don't know how that's going to look, but to me it makes sense that the recycling is going to let us go to some common material. And then kind of couple that with, so the reason I have the Mavis Hub up here is we've already been told that Lunasia, the Lunasia button here, is land play. But Project L is this kind of mystery, I think, but maybe it's not so mysterious, because a lot of what was discussed, apart from just kind of showing off some of the art and some of the actual interface coolness in the prototypes, was talking about crafting and showing off some of that art for the materials. And you notice that the gameplay specifically says artifacts that you can place, and those are land items too, no question. But this Project L, I'm starting to wonder if that isn't kind of the crafting like side interface. Maybe it's easier to kind of the way we have breeding separate through the website, through the web interface. Maybe crafting and generation of structures and upgraded land items and so forth. Maybe that's going to be easier to have that separated out in this Project L, that maybe lets us build weapons and machinery and, you know, the stars, the throwing stars, different weapons, shields, and so forth. Maybe that's what Project L is about. Don't know, and just kind of giving some speculation, some wild speculation to try to sort some of this stuff out. So again, I just wanted to point out, as I'm getting closer to wrapping this up, that they have some very specific things that they want to show in land before they actually release. And they've talked about trying to get this done by this summer. And that is that we could collect basic resources, build a few structures, and I think those are the ones that were said above. So storage, the town hall. I don't know if that's the same thing as the residence or what the town hall is for sure. And then the portal to at least send your Axies out to get around and do things. And perhaps battling a few chimeras. So it sounds like maybe the PvE battling is not a certainty, but a hopeful. All right, guys. Well, again, I want to keep these succinct, short, get to the speculation, and move on. So that's what I'm going to keep on doing. And we'll talk in more detail, probably about Luna and a few things the next go around here. But I just want to shout out to some of our community content creators, Chief, Axie GG, and all the Axie GG team. Man, that's awesome. Axie Edge, enjoy putting those articles together. Binary Assets just dropped, and I didn't put on here, but he just dropped a really cool statistical analysis of the land, breaking it down into different types and how many different plots are available in each different type. And Enforcer, you know what you just said there, Project L might be Luna, and I think that it has to have some sort of Luna interface pretty much no matter what. I'm not exactly sure how that is all going to go down, but if there's a marketplace, it seems like the base currency or the base kind of value or the base exchange token would be Luna, I would presume. I don't know how many tokens we're going to be looking at either, because, you know, I haven't thought this through super carefully in my mind, but we're being showed those 4 different types of materials. Are each of those going to have to be a separate token? And are we going to have different tokens that have to interact? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I know that we have articles that say that all those resources are going to be tokenized. I don't know if it's going to be that Luna is the actual currency / trade equivalent, and that you can then turn that Luna into whatever stone, whatever wood, whatever materials that you might need. I don't know. My mind's just a buzzing with all this. It seems pretty cool to be creating a whole marketplace and economy that relates specifically to this land gameplay. And yeah, so Project L, I think it definitely has some connection with Luna. We know, based on a lot of the stuff that's written out there, that, let me just go back real quick. We know, based on the information out there, that Luna is potentially obtainable, supposedly, through gathering and through fighting Chimera. So Luna has to have some, I'm assuming, huge input into the marketplace and how all that goes forward. And again, I'm going to talk more about Luna. Oops. I'll just let that run. But I do want to say again, thanks to all of our content creators. And again, Binary Assets. That was a cool thing you just put out there. Yeah, so thanks for hanging out, guys. Having a good time, throwing out the speculation. Love to hear people's input. This one was a little specific, I guess, to the materials and some of the conversations that we had. Please join the Discord. Continue the conversations. Let's make sure we can try to figure out everything that we can figure out and get ourselves in a good position to really capitalize on gameplay as it goes forward. Yeah, right on, guys. I'm still planning on keeping on doing this on a weekly basis, and hopefully you guys feel confident that you can hop in the chat and ask questions and yeah, let's have a good time. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a good one. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Peace out. Take care.